Okay, let's get into the jigs. Most important part.
If you do use the self-adjusting, you still need your weight on the bottom.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Yep. Like I said, with this one here, you're not going to have to weight it because it's got weight on the bottom of it. So it's going to stand up for you. It's going to do it for you. Okay, guys, why do we bobber fish in the wintertime? Here's what happens. When the fish start coming in, August, September, down the confluence, we like to start fishing around the end of September. You'll see, guys, you can bobber fish down there at that point in time if you want. We prefer to troll. We like to troll the planer boards on the surface when the fish start rolling. When the water's warmer like that, if it's too warm, you want to be out in the confluence with everybody set up bobber fishing down deep because they're looking for the cooler water. We like to go down there in October, first part of October into September, because the water's cooling down and they're moving. We want them moving through. So, just like we talked before, water temperature makes the fish do things. Right now, in the dead of winter, if our river channel looks like this, and this is all underwater, so you got to kind of visualize. What you'll have is you'll have a run. And then it'll kind of go out, and then it starts to get slow. When the water's at its coldest, these fish are all hunkered down in these holes. The water's low, water's extremely clear, and the water's cold. They've made their run, and now they're sitting and waiting. They're waiting for spring runoff, any kind of runoff to come. If it breaks loose tomorrow, and it warms up, and you get water pushing through, the water gets a little muddy, they'll start pulling and going further until it starts to drop again, then they'll sit in the next hole. Positioning yourself is key when you're bobber fishing. You've got no electronics, you're blindly fishing. So you got to really pay attention with your eyes as to what's going on. You got to be able to read the water. Is there a rock under the surface right there? Is there a ledge? That's the whole key with bobber fishing. You got to increase your odds. So we know right now when it's cold, these fish are laying down in the deep water. And they're all stacked up in there. What you'll find when you're bobber fishing this time of year is you want to locate a ledge or a rock, something that's creating a seam for them to hold up in. Because let's face it, some of those holes are huge. And if you go down there and fish enough, steelhead in general, I don't care where it's at, you're going to find these little special places to cast. Simulation looking down on top. The river's kind of going like this. Kind of shoots out and goes like this. And then it gets wide and it kind of turns like this. Okay. Right in here, we've got a run, like so. We've got a turn going this direction. When a river makes a turn, where's the deepest part of the river at? Outside, correct? Because it's cutting away.
Right.
A lot of times what you'll have in these areas is you'll have a ledge right in here. And it's a real abrupt ledge. Now on this shoreline, follow me with this, it's like contours, but you got to see it here. On this side over here, what do you think the contours are like on this side?
Shallow.
They're kind of tapered, correct? Isn't it weird how it all comes together? But over here, they're really tight on these outside curves right here. They're really tight. Those fish will get up, and they'll suck right up against these. I see guys all day long going right out in the middle of the river. Hoping a prayer, baby. It's all about percentages, being in the strike zone, being in the right spot. You go out fishing with Chad and I, we're going to be standing on the bank right here. We're going to be throwing just like this. And that jig's going to be bouncing and rolling right down that shoreline. Chad, when we caught all those fish up there, how far out in the river did we go?
20 yards, 15 yards.
That's it. Everybody's heave-hoeing right out here. That's a sloping taper. Fish want to be on that deep water, steep drop in the wintertime, right? Just about every species. Right there. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cast up against the shoreline. The first time you get there, you're going to have to figure out what your depth is. They want to be down on the bottom right now. You'll see them come up and roll throughout the day. It's a natural thing. The ones you're going to catch are going to be the ones sitting on the bottom. So what you have to do when you go out is you got to say, okay, I'm going to take this jig that I don't like and I'm going to sacrifice it to the bottom. You're going to throw it out. You're going to go, that looks like it's about 8 feet. I pull out 8 feet. I got my stopper down. I got my leader at 6 feet. I'll pull 2 feet to my bobber stop. I got 8 feet. I'll throw, make a drift. Okay, I didn't touch the bottom on that one. I'll go a foot more. Throw it, foot more. When I start tapping the bottom periodically, this bobber's kind of rolling down through the hole. Don't. I know I'm right there. If I'm hitting too much, I start going up just little tiny 1 or 2 inch increments. Because I got to be right down close to the bottom. Rolling right down through there. What happens, guys, those fish are not eating. Their throat's closed shut, they're not eating. Basically what you're doing is cornering them. You're cornering them. So we know we're on our outside curve. As this simulation here, we're throwing up, we're working this steep drop. We've found our depth. What happens is this. If I back into a corner and get in your face and I got some severe halitosis, you're going to probably start swinging or try to get out of there or do something, right? Right? You don't want me breathing on you. We got the bottom. Whatever. It's rocky, it's whatever. These steelhead will hold. A lot of times they're holding in depressions. That one's kind of, he's got scoliosis or something, I don't know. Okay? A lot of times they'll hold in these little depressions right here. I want that jig, and they're facing the current. Current's coming this way. And they're just kind of sitting there, not doing much, not expending much energy because they haven't eaten. They're living on fat reserves. As my jig comes down through here, bouncing along, if I'm up too high, it just goes right by them. Rarely are they going to chase it down. What has to happen is that jig's got to get right down, bouncing through the rocks, and it's going to come right at them. And it's either they're going to move, and they just make a little tiny move. I've watched them do it in the North Fork, little move, and it goes by. Or it's going to come right into their face, and my buddy says, you got them when they're yawning. Okay? It just comes right at them. They don't want to back up. They don't want to leave that little sanctuary there. It comes right in their face. You got the right combo. Boom, you got them. Once you hit a fish, you're going to turn the GPS on in your brain. You're going to go, I cast it upstream, 80 feet, slightly to the southwest. And you're going to continue to throw in that same spot all day. Chad, all those fish, about the same spot, right? Randy gave him the rod. Said, Randy, take a break from filming. Here. Randy threw out. I went, Randy, that's the money spot. Don't. First cast. It's a sweet spot. Once you get that fish, keep throwing there because there's a lot more there. There's a lot more there. It's like jigging a school of walleye. When you find one, you better stay there. You can't throw a marker buoy out in the river. So you visually got to go, this is where it's at. Because that's where they're holding at. So we know we got to be down at the bottom. We know we got to get it in their face. They don't want to back up. They take it.
So about how far will they suspend off the bottom? Of course, they can't look down. They're looking up.
They'll sit right on the bottom this time of year, Ken. They'll come up and roll on the surface periodically, but the ones you're catching are parked down low.
So once you feel yourself touching the bottom, about how much do you pull up?
I'll come up about 6-8 inches. Okay. But I mean, I'm periodically still hitting. Like, see, I'd come through here and I'd tap this pinnacle. Right here.
So at that point, does it matter what color or what
We're getting there.
Oh.
We're getting there. I'm not scolding you. You guys are anxious. You're like, come on, man, it's been 4 nights with you. I just want to go home. Tell me how to get them. Another situation that occurs, and this is what Chad and I were dealing with when we were up on the Clearwater here. And guys, I say Clearwater, the people that get this DVD that'll be back in the Great Lakes, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's about how to, not where to. Okay, here's what Chad and I had. We had a gradual bend coming like this. And the river over here was just going straight. And we had some rapids over in here, running down, kind of curving down. We're standing out here, There's kind of a rock here. And it's not quite this dramatic, but so where by default do we know we need to cast? Right? The deeper side. Here's what there is. We've got a ledge, and when you're standing on this rock, you'll see it because it becomes very fun to get the fish in as they're trying to cut you off on the ledge. Because that's where they're living at. This spot is unique because out in here, there lives a rock or some object, because I can't see it because it's down 9-10 feet, that looks like this. What's happening, if you watch the water, it's very subtle. You can kind of see this thing going on. That's a natural current break, right? What those fish would do, what our goal was to cast up, plant it somewhere right in here. That jig would come down through. We got that steep ledge. It's what we call a seam. This is what we call a seam spot. We got the steep ledge here. And we call it a death drift when you get over too far because you're going to break something off. You better crank it up because you're going to get on this rock right here or this ledge. What would happen, just like what happened with Randy, threw it out. And the biggest thing, guys, you got to do is that when you get that fish, and I'm going to sidebar you real quick. When you get that fish, and you're like, okay, so I hit the river right here, and I caught this fish right here, and Seth told me I better stay there. You were casting up here before and drifting it down through. What happens is, oh, I'm on them. What? Boom! You're dropping it right on their head. No. Cast up. By casting up, what it does is it drops the jig down. It allows it to sink and get set up. And you want everything flowing in a natural drift. So even though we know they're right here, we're casting way up here as far as we can and letting this thing work down so it's natural. It has to be natural. It would come down, it would hit the rocks, and you could see the bobber working, kind of going dink, 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 and it would swing out like this. Well, when this bobber tips, I know that jig is kicking out like this. Well, what it's doing is it's kicking around that rock and coming right in behind it. Bang. That's where they were sitting at. So the goal was to get way up above and hit that. And you may only hit it 7 times a day out of 50 casts to get the correct run through there. But that thing is working right around. That bobber kicks out and it's kind of bouncing. It's going around, then it's straightened up when it gets behind. And you have to see those seams with your eyes. Very hard to see. You got to wear polarized glasses, but you can see them. Little tiny rifts going through there. Little swirls. You know something's going around something. So we continued to throw, boom, throw here, bang, and just work it through there. Work it through there. If you present the same thing over and over again after you catch a fish, and they see it a bunch, they're probably not going to eat it. Because they're not moving. You're not getting fresh fish in there. Maybe 1 or 2. They're just sitting there. Okay? So what has to happen, and this is the critical mistake they make. Guys, I used to go out of the North Fork, and I'd just sit there. When it got so crowded, I didn't want to be fishing. I'd go up high, walk way up the bank, back when I was in shape and could do it. But I'd walk way up the bank, and I'd watch them. And you'd see these steelhead, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever, sitting out there. These guys would throw right on top of them. Boom. They didn't know they were there. Boom. As soon as that thing would hit, they'd just kind of go like this. Man, it was like the sea parting. Just that jig would float through, and they'd go whoop, right in behind it. Right in behind it. Because the guys were throwing right on top of them. And they'd throw the same thing every single time. Every single time.